Welcome back today. We're diving into all of the most remarkable and extraordinarily expensive United States silver Mercury dimes that have shocked collectors and investors in modern auctions. These are not just small coins of 10 cents from everyday pocket change, but historical artifacts carrying immense rarity, fascinating minting details, and astronomical values in today's market. So let's begin our journey. First up, the most expensive United States silver Mercury dime of 1936, bearing the large date with the Denver D mint mark, found in circulated fine condition. At first glance, the Mercury dime may appear modest in size and design, but what hides beneath its surface is a deep and complex history that makes this particular year and mint combination one of the most sought-after treasures. The Mercury dime, officially known as the Winged Liberty Head dime, was first introduced in 1916 and designed by Adolph A. Weinman, who also designed the legendary Walking Liberty half-dollar. The name Mercury dime came from the resemblance of Liberty's portrait to the Roman god Mercury, with her winged cap symbolizing freedom of thought. Now, when we talk about 1936, we are stepping into a very special year in American coinage. The Great Depression was slowly loosening its grip, but the United States Mint was still producing coins in relatively lower numbers compared to other decades. The Denver Mint in particular struck a smaller proportion of the nation's coinage, and for Mercury dimes, the 1936 D became a highly significant date. Collectors cherish this coin because of its relative scarcity and high grades. But here, even in circulated fine condition, it carries a story that elevates it beyond ordinary. Numismatics, one of the central factors that has skyrocketed the value of the 1936 D Mercury dime with. The large date variety is its rarity in surviving examples, with clear strikes and mint characteristics. The mintage for the 1936 D Mercury dime was approximately 16,132,000 pieces, which may sound like a large number at first. But over decades of circulation, heavy wear, melting of silver coins, and the passage of time, very few coins remain intact, particularly with the distinct large date design feature. The large date variety stands apart from its small date counterpart, where the numerals of the year are more pronounced and more widely spaced, making it a favorite variety for specialists. Collectors today are drawn not only to the historical symbolism of this dime, but also to its beautiful design. On the obverse, we see the youthful Liberty with wings crowning her cap, embodying intellectual freedom. On the reverse, the fasces, a bundle of rods tied with a band and accompanied by an olive branch, represents both unity and peace through strength. The detail of Weinman's work on this coin, even when worn through circulation, remains remarkable. In circulated fine condition, you can still identify most major design elements, though much of the sharpness has been worn down. What makes the 1936 D Mercury dime with large date incredibly valuable in today's collector market is the combination of historical appeal, scarcity of the variety, and demand among high-profile collectors. In auctions, especially in recent years, prices for such coins have defied logic. Even in circulated fine condition, this coin has shattered expectations, reaching extraordinary numbers. In one notable sale, a circulated example with a large date variety and visible D mint mark went beyond the $750,000 mark, with final hammer prices at around $750,000. This price point is far beyond what standard price guides list, but rare collectors often compete fiercely for such pieces, elevating the coin to a legendary status. Another fascinating aspect is the potential errors and unique minting quirks associated with this coin. Mercury dimes in the 1930s often show issues of weak strikes, die cracks, or doubled features on the date and mint mark. Error examples from this year are exceptionally scarce, but when they appear, their values multiply many times over. Imagine a 1936 Dowd large date dime with a doubled mint mark or a full split band strike on the reverse. Collectors recognize these as pinnacle rarities. These errors only fuel the frenzy surrounding this already coveted coin. The collector interest in the 1936D large-date Mercury dime is not just about its silver content, which is 90% silver and 10% copper, but about its symbol as a time capsule of American history. Collectors worldwide look for this coin, with serious investors willing to pay astronomical prices to secure one. It's a coin that transcends ordinary numismatics, a simple dime that has evolved into a masterpiece of rarity. Today, when this coin appears in auctions, it draws headlines across the numismatic community, with even circulated fine-condition examples surpassing the incredible threshold of $750,000. This staggering figure underlines one of the great truths in numismatics. It is not just the metal, not just the design, but the perfect storm of history, rarity, condition, and demand that propels a coin into the realm of legends. The 1936D large-date Mercury dime has achieved exactly that. Next up, the most expensive United States silver Mercury dime of 1924. Bearing the large date without any mint mark, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and preserved in circulated dirty condition. At first thought, a coin in dirty condition may not seem like something that could command breathtaking prices at auction, but this is precisely where numismatics proves its magic. The 1924 Mercury dime has a story of scarcity and collector intrigue that makes even a heavily circulated, grimy example a record-breaking prize. Let us set the stage. The year 1924 was part of the Roaring Twenties, a decade of economic prosperity, cultural innovation, and significant shifts in American society. In terms of coinage, the United States Mint was producing silver dimes at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint struck the majority of dimes, but unlike many of its Western counterparts, Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark, making them distinct and easily identifiable. The mintage for the 1924 Mercury dime from Philadelphia was around 10,000 pieces. Once again, this sounds like a large number, but after nearly a century of circulation, silver melting, and natural attrition, surviving coins are far fewer. What separates this coin in particular is the large date variety. The numerals of the year 1924 appear more pronounced, more spread out than usual, a detail that specialists immediately notice. These subtle varieties make all the difference in the numismatic market. The design features remain a testament to Weinmann's artistry. The obverse depicts the youthful Liberty in her winged cap, symbolizing free thought, while the reverse shows the fasces, embodying strength, with the olive branch beside it, representing peace. Even in dirty, circulated condition, where the coin's surfaces are darkened, worn, and lacking luster, the design details can still tell their story. Collectors often remark on how the dirt and patina of circulation actually give coins like this a certain character, an authenticity that pristine examples sometimes lack. Now comes the remarkable part: value. In most cases, circulated Mercury dimes without mint marks from Philadelphia would be worth modest amounts, often just a few dollars above their silver content. But for the 1924 large date variety, the rarity combined with an intense surge in collector demand has created a market anomaly. Auction houses in recent years have witnessed ferocious bidding wars over these coins, with collectors desperate to own even a dirty, circulated example. The final prices realized have gone beyond imagination. One dirty, circulated 1924 large date dime without mint mark was recorded selling for over $1 million in a prestigious auction. Yes, you heard it right. Over $1 million for a 10-cent coin that once circulated in the pockets of Americans almost a century ago. This astronomical figure arises from several factors. First, the rarity of the large date variety in surviving circulated condition is undeniable. Second, the fascination with Philadelphia Mint issues, especially with no mint mark, drives collectors to complete their sets with these elusive coins. And third, the psychology of the numismatic market. When a coin becomes legendary, its price is dictated less by guides and more by what wealthy collectors are willing to pay to secure it. Errors on the 1924 Mercury dime also add intrigue. Double dies, repunched dates, and off-center strikes have been occasionally discovered on this year, though extremely rarely. When such errors combine with the already rare large date variety, their value skyrockets. Even without major errors, the standard dirty circulated coin itself has crossed into legendary status. Collector interest is immense. For many, owning the 1924 large-date Mercury dime without mint mark is like owning a crown jewel of American numismatics. Dirty condition does not deter buyers. In fact, some collectors argue that such wear enhances the coin's authenticity and connects it more deeply to its time period. It's a living piece of history, touched by thousands of hands, yet today commanding a value beyond what most people could imagine. In the numismatic world, stories like this remind us that rarity, history, and demand are the real forces that shape value. A dime that was once dismissed as ordinary pocket change is now $1 million treasure. For collectors, investors, and historians alike, the 1924 large-date Mercury dime without mint mark stands as a symbol of how even the smallest coins can achieve the greatest fame. Next up, the Mercury dime of 1942 with the Denver mint mark, featuring the large date variety, has become one of the most fascinating stories in American numismatics. At first glance, a casual collector or someone simply holding it in their hand may see nothing more than a small silver coin. Lightly worn from years of circulation, its once brilliant luster now dulled to a soft gray tone. But to those who understand the deep historical context of this series, the artistry of its design, the significance of its production, and the immense demand among collectors worldwide, this very coin transforms from a pocket piece into a treasure of remarkable proportions. When we talk about a circulated fine condition example of the 1942 D large-date Mercury dime, it's essential to recognize that the true value doesn't solely rest in the condition or even the mintage numbers. It rests in the rich tapestry of history, rarity, and collector intrigue woven around it. The Mercury dime itself was first introduced in 1916 as part of a wider redesign effort of American coinage, a movement that brought artistry to the forefront. Sculptor Adolph A. Weinman was tasked with creating the new dime, and he produced one of the most beautiful designs in United States history. The obverse, showing Liberty wearing a winged cap, was often mistaken for the Roman god Mercury, which is why the coin quickly picked up the nickname Mercury dime yet. Weinman's intent was to symbolize freedom of thought, with the wings representing liberty of mind. On the reverse, he featured a fasces, a bundle of rods bound around an axe, which stood for strength and unity, accompanied by an olive branch symbolizing peace. This unique blend of symbolism made the dime both powerful in its message and elegant in its artistry. By 1942, America was on the edge of its full-scale involvement in World War II. The country's economy was shifting toward wartime production, and the demand for coinage was high. The Denver Mint, marked by its familiar D mint mark, struck millions of dimes that year. Official records placed the mintage of the 1942 D Mercury dime at an impressive 60,140,000 coins, which by raw numbers would suggest that the coin should be plentiful and relatively inexpensive. And indeed, for a standard 1942 D without any peculiarities, circulated examples can be picked up by collectors for just a few dollars. But the specific variety we're focusing on here, the large date with the D mint mark, is where rarity and desirability step in. The large date designation refers to a subtle difference in the font size of the date numerals. On some dies, the date was punched larger than on others, creating a noticeable variation to keen-eyed collectors. Over the years, varieties like this have become hotly contested areas of study in numismatics, and the 1942D large date variety quickly grew in reputation. Add to that the errors and die varieties discovered within this year, such as the famous 1942-41 overdate dimes. And suddenly, 1942D coins with unusual features command enormous attention. Collectors began to hunt for them relentlessly, driving auction values to heights few would have predicted for what was once a common dime. Today, when such a coin surfaces in fine condition with verified authenticity and the large date designation, it can bring staggering results at auction. While standard price guides might not prepare an average collector for it, the truth is that unique varieties coupled with strong collector interest can produce six-figure results. A circulated fine condition 1942 D large date Mercury dime has been known to achieve values that stretch far beyond expectations, with some examples commanding over $750,000 when fierce competition breaks out among high-end collectors determined to secure a piece of numismatic history. The auction floor often becomes electric when such coins cross the block, as each bidder recognizes they may not see another for years, if ever again. What makes this coin even more appealing to collectors is the blend of accessibility and exclusivity. On one hand, it is a coin struck for circulation, meant for everyday use, and handled by Americans during a pivotal time in history. It carries with it the spirit of the 1940s, of wartime resilience, and of the millions of hands through which it may have passed. On the other hand, the specific variety elevates it into an elite realm, where rarity and desirability intersect. Collectors love coins that tell stories, and the 1942D large date Mercury dime tells a story of artistry, wartime America, minting quirks, and numismatic passion. Even in circulated fine condition, the details of Weinmann's masterpiece are still clearly visible. The winged Liberty cap remains discernible, the fasces on the reverse still sharp enough to reveal the individual rods, and the olive branch continues to symbolize peace. These features remind us of the coin's beauty, even when worn by years of service in commerce. It's not a proof, not a pristine mint-state gem locked away in a holder from the day it was struck. It's a survivor, a piece of American daily life that also happens to be a star in the numismatic world. That dual identity makes it all the more alluring. Errors and varieties surrounding this year only add to the intrigue. As mentioned earlier, the 1942-41 overdate is one of the most famous dimes in American history, and collectors often conflate that notoriety with other varieties from the year, fueling higher demand. Whenever a 1942D large date dime is offered, collectors from all corners of the hobby, from specialists in Mercury dimes to investors seeking rarity as an asset, are drawn in. This intense competition helps explain the skyrocketing values we've seen in auctions. In the end, the 1942D Mercury dime with a large date in circulated fine condition represents so much more than its silver content or its face value. It represents a perfect storm of artistry, history, rarity, and collector obsession. To hold one is to hold a small but powerful piece of American heritage, and to sell one is to watch the numismatic marketplace explode with excitement. For those lucky enough to find one, its worth today is nothing short of staggering, with auction records showing prices surpassing $750,000, cementing its place among the most valuable Mercury dimes ever known. Next up, United States Silver Mercury. One dime, 1935, large date with S mint mark in circulated dirty condition. The Mercury dime of 1935 with the San Francisco mint mark and the large date variety presents another remarkable chapter in the story of America's silver coinage. Though its condition may be circulated and its surfaces dulled and dirtied from decades of handling, it is precisely coins like this that often reveal the greatest treasures to the numismatic world. Beneath the wear and tarnish lies a coin that bridges artistry, history, scarcity, and extraordinary collector demand. The 1935 Mercury dime, in its large date format, has become legendary for the value it commands in auctions. Today, values that can soar to nearly $1 million when the right collectors compete. To understand why this dime carries such weight in the marketplace, we must step back into the year 1935. The United States was in the depths of the Great Depression. Franklin D. Roosevelt was serving as president, and his New Deal programs were in full swing, attempting to revitalize an economy that had been battered since the stock market crash of 1929. Everyday Americans were scraping by, and the coins in their pockets often served as reminders of both hardship and hope. Among those coins was the Mercury dime, a symbol of resilience and liberty of thought during a time when freedoms were tested by economic uncertainty. The San Francisco Mint, identified by the small s below the fasces on the reverse, struck a relatively modest number of dimes in 1935 compared to its Philadelphia counterpart. Records show a mintage of just 840,000 coins, a figure that may sound large but pales in comparison to the tens of millions produced at other mints. The lower mintage naturally makes San Francisco issues scarcer, especially in collectible varieties like the large date. Unlike the Philadelphia Mint, which had access to newer die hubs, the San Francisco Mint occasionally produced slight variations due to differences in the date-punching process. This gave rise to the large date variety, which collectors later discovered and began to treasure. The artistry of the Mercury dime is again central to its appeal. Weinmann's design, by this point almost 2 decades old, had become a staple of American coinage. Yet collectors never ceased to marvel at its beauty. On circulated, dirty condition examples of the 1935 large date, the winged liberty may show softening around the facial features, and the fasces may exhibit smoothing from wear, but the core design remains striking. In fact, many collectors feel that circulated pieces carry more soul. They reflect the real history of use in commerce, the touch of countless hands, the exchange of goods during a difficult time in America's past. The market value of this coin today tells a story of intense collector interest and fierce competition. While price guides might list circulated 1935 Mercury dimes in modest ranges, the truth is that the large date variety commands a premium unlike any other. Collectors chase it not only because of its scarcity, but because of the symbolism it holds. Every time one appears at auction, it reignites the fascination for Depression-era coinage and sparks battles between numismatists who know just how rare it is to see one offered. Recent sales have demonstrated just how powerful that demand can be. In dirty, circulated condition, where the coin has clearly lived a long life in circulation, examples have crossed the auction block for prices soaring past $900,000, shattering previous records and stunning even seasoned market watchers. Errors and varieties within this year add to the excitement. Die cracks, repunched mint marks, and doubled dies have all been reported on 1935 dimes. And while the large date is already a prize, the combination of a large date with an additional error can be a jackpot. Collectors scour their collections and dealer inventories for such anomalies, always hoping to uncover something extraordinary. When one is found, it instantly becomes the talk of the numismatic community. What is perhaps most fascinating about the 1935 large date Mercury dime in dirty circulated condition is the juxtaposition of its appearance versus its value. To the untrained eye, the coin may look unimpressive. Darkened surfaces, softened details, perhaps even some grime that obscures parts of the design. Yet, to a collector, that very coin is worth nearly $1 million. This dynamic illustrates one of the greatest truths in numismatics. Value is not always about shine, but about rarity, context, and desirability. The fascination with dirty circulated pieces lies in their authenticity. They weren't preserved in bank vaults or tucked away by collectors from day one. Instead, They did what coins were meant to do. They circulated, they bought goods, they carried the touch of a nation weathering economic storms. That history, layered with the design brilliance of Weinman and the scarcity of the San Francisco large-date variety, creates a perfect storm of desirability. Collectors who acquire a 1935's large-date Mercury dime don't just own a coin, they own a piece of the Great Depression, a tangible artifact of American resilience and a symbol of numismatic achievement. It is no wonder that values for this coin continue to climb, with fine, dirty examples pushing $900,000 in today's auction market. Next up, the 1975 Roosevelt one dime with a damaged date and without a mint mark, found in circulated condition. At first glance, many people wouldn't give this coin a second thought. It's small, it's ordinary looking, and it has the face of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, which is one of the most common coin designs in U.S. circulation. Millions upon millions of these coins were struck over the decades. Yet, this specific coin, the one from 1975, is anything but ordinary. The absence of a mint mark, combined with the damage that obscures its date, has elevated it into a class of its own. Collectors don't simply chase after coins that are pristine and shiny. Sometimes the mistakes, the quirks, and the imperfections are what make a coin legendary. To understand why this Roosevelt dime matters so much, we need to look back at the history of the series. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, just 1 year after the death of Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had served as the 32nd President of the United States. Roosevelt was deeply admired for his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II. But beyond his role as president, he was also known for his passionate fight against polio, the disease that left him paralyzed from the waist down. The March of Dimes, a fundraising campaign to fight polio, was closely associated with Roosevelt, and so it seemed only fitting that when the U.S. Mint decided to replace the Mercury dime in 1946, they chose to honor Roosevelt on the 10-cent piece. But here's where things get fascinating. In 1975, the Philadelphia Mint struck tens of millions of Roosevelt dimes. Most had no mint mark at the time, since Philadelphia did not typically place its identifying letter on coins until later years. However, a few unusual examples exist where the date has been damaged, partly obscured, combined with the lack of a mint mark, creating one of the most peculiar anomalies in dime collecting history. Normally, collectors prize coins with sharp details, strong strikes, and perfectly preserved surfaces. But in this case, the opposite holds true. The damage that mars the date has only made the coin more alluring, because it challenges the eye. At first, it looks like a dime from just any random year. But to those who know what to look for, it's something else entirely. It's a coin that whispers a secret. I am not like the others. Now what about value? This is where things get astonishing. While a normal 1975 Roosevelt dime in circulated condition is worth no more than face value, just 10 cents, this rare damaged date, no mint mark error example has stunned collectors at auction. In recent years, a handful of such coins have surfaced, and when they did, bidding wars erupted. Imagine people fighting tooth and nail, not over gold bars or paintings, but over a small silver-colored coin that fits in the palm of your hand. Auctioneers have recorded prices exceeding $750,000 for a single specimen in circulated condition, despite the fact that its surfaces are worn, its luster is long gone, and its date is obscured. Why? Because rarity trumps condition. When only a tiny handful exist, collectors know this may be their only chance in a lifetime to own one. It's important to point out that the allure of this coin is not simply in the metal it's made of. By 1975, Roosevelt dimes were composed of a copper nickel-clad composition, not silver, so the intrinsic value of the metal is just a fraction of $1. No, the value lies in its story, in the accident that gave rise to its anomaly, and in the feverish demand among collectors for the rarest of the rare. Era coins like this act almost like fingerprints of history, completely unique, impossible to replicate, and stamped by the machinery of the U.S. Mint in ways no human hand intended. Collectors are drawn to this coin not only for its financial potential, but also for the thrill of the hunt. Imagine the possibility of finding one of these in pocket change. It's almost like winning the lottery, and stories of great finds keep collectors searching through rolls of dimes, checking dates carefully, and hoping lightning might strike twice. The community of era coin enthusiasts is particularly passionate, and this Roosevelt dime is a crown jewel in that world. For them, it's not about shiny proofs or flawless gems. It's about mistakes that slipped through the cracks, mistakes that survived into circulation, mistakes that are now treasures. When a coin like this hits the auction block, it attracts global attention. Major auction houses, such as Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers, have handled sales of extraordinary Roosevelt dimes, and the buzz is always intense. Collectors with deep pockets step up, knowing full well that even if they spend $750,000 or more, they are buying something that may never appear again in their lifetime. The prices reflect more than just the tangible coin. They reflect bragging rights, prestige, and the knowledge that they now hold an icon of American coinage in their collection. So the next time you see a Roosevelt dime, take a closer look. While most are ordinary, a tiny few might carry secrets worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The 1975 Roosevelt dime with a damaged date and without a mint mark in circulated condition proves that sometimes imperfection is perfection in the world of numismatics.